I'm Tamima Itzkovich, and I live in Santa Monica by the sea. I had the amazing privilege of moving at the Continuum Movement studio about twice a week with Emily Conrad of blessed memory for about 12 years. And I came to Continuum Movement with a background different than most. I spent many years as an electrical engineer, working out calculations, designing circuits on computers, and eventually I found myself selling test equipment as a consultative sales rep in the field. Later in life, I started studying Kabbalah. Basically, I found that Kabbalah models worked a lot like electrical models, and I was very comfortable with black boxes. And through that study, I got to recognize the ongoing attendance of a dynamic resonance presence on Earth and witness her manifestations. I say her because spirit is above gender and has been called him many times. Both these aspects are really cerebral, and continuum movement allowed me to integrate these wisdoms into my body, to be able to understand them and to live them in a somatic way. The very first mystical text I ever learned begins with these words. This is Rav Ashkenazi, Joseph Ashkenazi. He writes in his introduction to Sefer Yetzirah, "It is incumbent upon you to know that for everything the Holy One of Blessing did in the world, there is a corresponding part created within the humans, as is written in Genesis, and we created humankind in our form, in our pattern." And all this so we are able to recognize the secret wisdoms from what is revealed. It feels that like I have been put on this path of soma even before I knew what somatics are. And I am so blessed and privileged to be in this flow and be a part of this work, and happy to do this video for you. So we're going to talk about water. Start with water. Water. Our bodies are 70-80% water. Our planet is 70 or 80% water. And as we worked last time, we worked a lot with wave motions, really moving the water in our bodies. Not only that, even the Old Testaments in Genesis teaches that there's water on earth and there's water above the rakia, above the firmament, beyond earth. In fact, the word for water in Hebrew is shamayim. Sham, there, mayim, water. There, water, pointing to the heavens. So it's already a hint that's ingrained in the language, and something that many of us feel and are aware of. And all this water on earth, on heaven, in the ocean, in our bodies, it has a single consciousness. Water is grace. Water's tendency is to spread and connect. So if you pour water onto a table, it'll keep moving as far out as it possibly can based on its volume. Similarly, if you pour water into a glass or into any container, it will fit the container precisely. If you think about that, that is grace. Water is electrically conductive. Water cleans. When someone gets a boo-boo, the first thing we do is we wash the boo-boo. We rinse it off, clean it up. And with that, with the healing process, it usually feels better right away, and the healing process can start. And of course, we may add other pieces afterwards. And think about mikveh or baptism. People for millennia have been immersing themselves in living water to rebirth, to recreate who they are. So we hold water having a single consciousness, that it's all interconnected in nature, and that all water will behave the same way under the same circumstances. But not only that, water is indeed the spark of life. What does that mean? Well, we know that water is necessary for life. Water is required for life as we know it. All you have to do is go to a desert floor and look at the plant life, look at the flowers that often grow in between the cracks. Those pretty, I'm seeing pretty pink flowers. They desire life so much. They find ways to access water, so they have the privilege of life. Simple, profound. But not only that, when NASA scientists go and seek life on other planets, they start out with looking for the capability of sustaining water in a liquid form, because this will sustain life. So for example, they found a planet in a distant galaxy. I saw this on Nova some months ago. And this planet had the right temperature requirements to support water and support life. It looked like a really, really good candidate. It was very exciting. But what this planet did not have, it did not rotate on its axis the way Earth does. So that means that one side of the planet is always facing the sun, and the other side of the planet is always not facing the sun. So one side is effectively day all the time, and the other side night. That really blew my mind, trying to think of what life could be like without day and night. All of Earth, most of Earth's, maybe all of Earth, depends on day and night, is built upon the concept of day and night. By day, most mammals are out and about, walking in the sunshine. By night, we sleep. Plants exhale during the day and inhale during the night. Really, all of life on Earth, as we know it, is dependent on this 24-hour cycle. And to start to imagine what life would be like on another planet without day and night, it's really awesome. It's hard to imagine what it would be like, but also interesting to consider that it's possible. Earth has a very unique space-time continuum. As I mentioned before, the Earth rotates on its axis, one rotation for 24 hours. Earth is orbited by our beautiful moon that orbits every 29 and a little bit days. We get another orbit of the moon. And we also witness changes in the Earth's field as a function of the moon's presence. So too, Earth orbits the sun every year, 365 and a quarter days, which is also really, really interesting. So we can notice the changes in our seasons as Earth orbits the sun, moving through the various constellations, all of which add energy, specificity to Earth's field. If we think of the orbiting of the moon around the Earth, for example, one orbit is a full circle, a full circuit. And that models a wave. A wave is a circuit of sorts.